and through the rotted old front door, a-squeaking on its hinges, down the dark and whispering hall, past the musty study, up the winding staircase, don't step on the step that's bloody, through the secret panel to the bedroom, where we'll slide into the ragged, cobweb, dusty bed 10 people must have died in. And the bats will screech, and the spirits will scream, and the thunder will crash like a horrible dream. And we'll sing with the zombies, and dance with the dead, and howl at the ghost with the axe in his head. And come to think of it, what do you say we go get some ice cream instead? That's good, right? Wow. How many of you have ever seen a ghost? No. I mean a real ghost, not on television, not Casper. Come on, how many a real ghost?
Back here.
Yeah, so many, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I will, well, I don't know. I might have seen a ghost. I'm going to tell you a true story that happened to my brother Bill and me when we were kids back in Ohio. I guess I was like 12, maybe. He was 9. And you can decide if we saw a ghost or not. The story actually starts out very sadly. There was a guy who lived 2 doors down from us in Columbus who died. He was a very old man and he'd been sick for a long time, Mr. Wilson, and he died. And that actually gave me the idea to scare my cousin Stanley, because my brother and I hated my cousin, who lived a couple blocks. We hated Stanley. He was really mean to us. We were very poor, a very poor family. And I had to wear Stanley's old clothes to school. And he was very mean about it. This is true, right? And he would say, that shirt looked a lot better on me. And that sweater, that's my best sweater. What are you wearing that? And he was terrible. And he was always trying to scare us. Constantly jumping out of closets and hiding under the bed and grabbing our ankles. And he was just terrible. And Bill and I, we just were desperate to find some way to scare Stanley. And so after about a week, maybe less, after Mr. Wilson died, I had this great idea. One morning I was walking to school. It was actually a couple days after he died, and I saw that his front door was open. And I thought, gee, somebody must have left his door open. So I went up the driveway and I went up and to close his door. And I thought, maybe I'll just walk into his house. Maybe I'll just take a look inside. And so I went inside, and it was just as he had left it. It was, the lights weren't on. There was sunlight coming in the window. But all the furniture was still there. And I walked in back, and I walked in Mr. Wilson's bedroom just to see what it looked like. It was very creepy to be in a dead man's house. And then it gave me this idea. And after school, I found my brother, and I said, Bill, this is what we're going to do to scare Stanley. This is perfect. He's coming to dinner tomorrow night, right? And you know Stanley is afraid of ghosts. So here's what we're going to do. You are going to sneak over to Mr. Wilson's house and climb into his bed and pull the covers up over your head. And then I will dare Stanley to come and say, Stanley, I'll bet you're too scared to come into Mr. Wilson's house. And I'll bring him into the bedroom. And then you slowly sit up, slowly, and say, get out of my house. And we'll scare him to death. So Bill said, that's great. I love that, Bob. That's a great idea. The only problem is, I have my trombone lesson tomorrow evening. My brother was really short. He had these short arms, but he played trombone, but he couldn't reach any of the low notes. I don't know why he liked it so much. And I said, don't worry, I will keep Stanley. I'll keep him late at dinner and give you plenty of time to get over there. so the next night, Stanley came to dinner, and we had dinner, and after dinner I said, Stanley, I'll bet you're too chicken to go into a dead man's house. And he said, are you kidding me? Of course I'll come. Lead the way. I said, fine, and I led him out to Mr. Wilson's house, and we went in the front. It was very dark. There was no electricity. There was a little pale moonlight coming in through one window. And I said, Stanley, I'll bet you're afraid to go into a dead man's bedroom. He said, no, I'm not. Are you kidding me? That's no big deal. What's the thing? I led him into the bedroom, and I could see Bill under the covers. And we were standing there, and then slowly the sheets rose up, slowly rose up, slowly, and the voice called, get out of my house! And Stanley's eyes bulged and his mouth dropped open, and he let out a little scream, and he turned and he ran. He ran through the living room, and he ran out the open front door, and he was running down the street. It worked. It really worked. I was so happy, and I went to the front door and watched him. He was running down the block, screaming his head off. And I thought, oh my God, this worked. It was great. And then I saw my brother coming up the driveway. And he said, am I too late to scare Stanley? That's my true story, my true ghost story. Do you think I made up some of that true ghost story? Yeah? Do you think maybe I made up a lot of it? I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to read. I'll tell you one. I'll tell you another true ghost story. You want another true ghost story? Yeah, I'm not going to read. This also, Bill and I think it was like a year before, and it was Halloween time, and we were very excited. I think I was like 11. He was like 3 years younger than me, Bill. And we were really excited. It was the first Halloween that our parents were allowing us to go out trick-or-treating by ourselves. No parents. And we just thought that was great. And we both dressed up as ghosts, and we put sheets on over our heads. And we got big shopping bags to hold all the candy that we were going to collect. And I took a can, you know that stuff is called silly string? You know, it pours out, the string pours out. I took a can of that just in case we had to string somebody. And Bill and I stepped out. It was a cold October night. The ground was all crunchy hard from the frost. I remember it was that kind of cold that clings to the back of your neck. And we started down the driveway, and we always started trick-or-treating at Mrs. Dawson's house across the street. But tonight her house was completely dark. And Bill said, well, I guess she isn't home, Bob. We'll have to start somewhere else. So we started next door. And we went house to house. And as I said, we were very poor. We lived in a very poor community of very tiny houses, which was great at Halloween time, because you didn't have to go up any long driveways or anything. The houses were so close and you could hit a whole lot of houses. And we went about 6 blocks collecting candy, and then came back about 6 blocks. And by the time we got back almost to our house, our shopping bags were just bulging with candy bars. We were very happy. And I looked across the street, and there was a light on in Mrs. Dawson's house. And so I said, oh, I guess she's home. Let's go over there, Bill. So we started across the street, and as I walked up her driveway, I could see that it wasn't a light in the window. It was a jack-o'-lantern. It was a big orange jack-o'-lantern with fiery yellow eyes and a big grin on its face, just a huge grin carved into its face. And we stepped up onto Mrs. Dawson's stoop, and I knocked on the door, and we waited, and she didn't come. And I rang the bell and knocked again, and she didn't come. Nothing. And my brother said, She's in there, Bob. Go ahead, string her. So I took out the can of silly string, and I raised it to her door, and then I stopped. I just froze because the jack-o'-lantern in the front window had changed. And it wasn't yellow anymore. It was this bright, fiery red. And it wasn't grinning. It had this horrible scowl on its face. And I said, Bill, look. And we were terrified. I dropped the can of silly string. And Bill and I started running down the driveway. Running down. I remember we were halfway down the driveway when Mrs. Dawson's door opened. And she came out. I remember she was wearing this long gray nightgown. I remember her nightgown fluttering in the wind, fluttering in the wind. And she said, why did you wake me? Why did you wake me? And I said, oh, Mrs. Dawson, I'm really sorry. We didn't know you were asleep. I'm really sorry. Can I just ask you one question? How did you do that with your jack-o'-lantern? And she said, jack-o'-lantern? I don't have a jack-o'-lantern. And I looked in the front window, and it was completely black. There was nothing there. Well, Bill and I ran home, and we went up to our room, and we dumped out the candy, and we were dividing. We didn't say another word about it. We didn't say anything about the jack-o'-lantern. That was it. And we were very happy we had all this chocolate. And the next morning, I woke up, and I thought, I really should go across the street and apologize to Mrs. Dawson for waking her up. So I got dressed for school, and I had breakfast, and I went out of the house, and I crossed the street. And there was a big truck in Mrs. Dawson's driveway, and these workers were going in and out of her house. And I went up to one of the workers, and I said, what's going on? And he said, well, kid, I guess you're getting new neighbors. And I said, why? What do you mean? And he said, oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you hear? Mrs. Dawson died 2 weeks ago. That's another true ghost story. Thank you very much. James and I are going to be over here at the table, and I look forward to meeting all of you and signing your books and getting pictures. And thank you all for coming tonight. I'm trying to see if I ever waited in your have you ever done it? I can do your other one too. Oh, sure, thank you. Since I'm in the neighborhood, I am here. Oh, you did? Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's good. I get all these stories about mothers who throw out their kids' collections. Oh, these sad stories. Why do mothers do that? Why do they throw them out?
It's like because there's no baseball cards anymore to throw away.
Yeah, all my Mads, my whole Mad collection, she threw them all out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I come home from camp, all my Mads are gone. It's horrible.
Dang.
So y'all gonna take a picture?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Standing
We're going to keep it moving. Next.
No, I thought you were. Paul said, what are you doing? Wait a minute, you have to scooch down.
Sorry about that.
Hold on. Thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
I don't know who you are.